If this future exists, I'll erase it.
Hello everyone, welcome to What If Deku Traveled in Future and Saw All for One Win the World movie. Before we start, please go support Jeff3302J for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made. There will be some mistaken character's gender, but of course Deku is a male. Izuku will travel to the future where, upon arrival, nothing is as he expected. Now he will do everything possible to ensure that this future never happens. Chapter 1. At UA, Class 1 was undergoing special training from Izawa. The young aspiring heroes had to overcome a series of obstacles to reach the finish line in a very short time, or they would have to repeat the exercise until they succeeded. The obstacles consisted of dodging or defeating robots or rescuing people posing as civilians. After a few minutes, almost everyone had completed the test, and those who hadn't had to do it again. Meanwhile, a green-haired boy was jotting down some notes in his hero notebook. His name was Izuku Midoriya, a UA student, apprentice of the former symbol of peace, Almight, and wielder of One for All. After finishing his notes, Izuku decided to go to the support workshop to ask his pink-haired friend to make him some new gadgets that would help him further improve his quirk control. He also wanted some adjustments to his costume. So he started walking towards the support department, but on the way, he ran into his friends who seemed to leave. Haminari. Hey Midoriya, do you want to come with us? We were thinking of going to the fair in town. They say it has some pretty cool rides. Izuku. Sorry, maybe next time. By the way, shouldn't you be at Izawa-sensei's training? Confused tone. Haminari. Yeah, well, I managed to sneak out with the excuse that I was going to the bathroom. Too bad it didn't work on Mineta. Remembering how his purple-haired friend told Izawa he was going to the bathroom and his teacher handed him a bottle anyway, I'd better go before Izawa-sensei realizes I didn't go to the bathroom. With that, the blonde-haired boy quickly left the area. As soon as Kaminari had left, Izawa appeared, clearly angry. He asked a freckled boy if he had seen the blonde-haired boy, to which Izuku simply shook his head. This prompted his teacher to leave and continue searching for Kaminari, knowing that when he caught him, the blonde-haired boy would wish he'd never been born. Seeing his teacher leave in anger, Izuku relaxed a little and could only feel sorry for his friend. The freckled boy then began walking toward his target. When he arrived at the support department, he moved slightly away from the door to avoid being caught in an explosion by Mei. He knocked and waited for the explosion, but nothing happened. Entering, he observed that the place was empty. Izuku. Mei, are you here? While looking for his friend. The freckled boy glanced around, searching for any trace of the girl, but found nothing until his gaze fell upon a device covered by a blanket and somewhat hidden. Izuku wondered what invention his friend had created, and curiosity got the better of him. He looked around to make sure no one else was there, and seeing that he was alone, he quickly pulled the blanket off the device, revealing a strange machine with a small safety line on the floor. The freckled boy wondered what it was for, so he decided that when Mei returned, he would ask her what the invention was for. He covered it again, but as he did, his arm touched one of the machine's buttons, causing it to turn on and startling him. He quickly began searching for a way to turn it off, but not knowing how it worked, he decided to do what his instinct told him. Press all the buttons until he found the right one. Just then, he heard someone approaching, which caused him to panic and start pressing the buttons faster, until there was a small short circuit, which caused the freckles step back a little, crossing the safety line, which caused him to be swallowed by the machine. As it shut down, someone entered the room, a pink-haired girl holding a soda and a bag of food. She was surprised to find no one there, as she swore she'd heard a voice coming from the support department. Mei put her things aside and saw that her invention was uncapped, so she approached it. Mei. I could swear I covered him up while putting the blanket back on. Well, it's best to find another place for you to lie down. I don't want any tragedy to happen. Saying that, he continued working on his other inventions, while elsewhere a machine began to emit small flashes of light until suddenly a portal opened and the green-haired boy emerged, falling to the ground and hitting his head. He slowly got up, rubbing his head from the impact, but seemed a little disoriented. Recovering from the shock, Izuku looked around, observing how the entire place was destroyed and abandoned. He could see some cables sticking out of the ceiling and pieces of rubble scattered on the floor. The freckled boy didn't know what was happening, so he left. Upon exiting, he saw that the hallways were just as worn and abandoned, as if the whole place would soon fall apart. Izuku began walking through those dark gloomy corridors, and the further he walked, the more he saw that some classrooms were more destroyed than others. So he decided to go to the rooftop to get a better view of what was happening. When he reached the rooftop door, he strained to open it, since it was jammed by a piece of rubble, and when she finally managed to pry it open, she made her way to the railing, and was shocked to see that the whole city was destroyed, and there was fire in some parts. It all seemed like something out of an end-of-the-world movie. Izuku. Where am I? He said in a confused and somewhat scared tone as he saw the whole city in flames. Chapter 2. The freckled boy quickly entered the building and began searching for signs of life, but found nothing until he noticed a small light flickering on and off at the end of a hallway. He quickly headed towards it and upon arriving, found the entire place dark. Then, another small light appeared and he walked towards the source. He saw a person wearing somewhat worn clothing that covered their entire body and a hood that concealed their face. The person seemed to be trying to repair something. As Izuku tried to approach, he made a small noise that alerted them. The person quickly turned and pointed a gun at him and Izuku swiftly took cover behind a wall. I know you're there, you'd better come out or, while preparing the weapon, I'll have to come after you. Izuku. Wait, I'll come to you, just don't shoot. That voice, he said it in a low voice. Saying that, the freckled boy slowly stepped out of the wall and approached the figure. Revealed by the dim light, the person dropped their weapon to the ground and slowly moved closer to the green-haired boy. Seeing this, Izuku stepped back, causing the figure to stop. Izuku, is it really you or have I completely gone crazy? While touching his head. Izuku. Excuse me, do I know you? In a confused tone. I can't believe it, it really is you. She said happily while hugging the green-haired boy. Izuku didn't know what to do, so he could only return the hug. A few minutes passed while the two were embraced until the man let go and walked away. Izuku. Excuse me, but you haven't answered my question. Oh, yes, sorry. You shouldn't have recognized me after all these years. As he said that, the subject removed his hood, revealing a somewhat older blue-haired man with rather long hair and a beard, while his left eye bore a scar. Izuku. Iida, surprised tone, but what happened to you, or rather, what happened to you Air Japan? Confused tone. Iida. It was 20 years ago, the day you disappeared and no one knew your whereabouts. For 2 years we were all looking for any trace that would lead us to you or give us any clue as to what happened to you, but one day they appeared. Izuku. What do you mean by they appeared? Confused tone. Iida. I mean Shigaraki Tamura and the Liberation Front. Upon hearing that, Izuku's eyes widened in shock. Iida. We thought we could stop them, how stupid we were, remembering how a fierce battle raged in the city to try and stop the villains. All the pro-heroes died that day. And those who survived helped the refugees, but there were too many of them, and food began to run out. People were scared and hungry, and that's how they started fighting each other. We tried to calm them down, but they wouldn't listen, and then it happened. People started killing each other, remembering the screams of all those people fighting over a single can of food. Without a symbol of peace to give them hope, everyone lost hope, including the remaining heroes. Izuku. Iida. Speechless. Iida. Don't worry, that doesn't matter anymore. But tell me, where have you been all this time, and why do you look so young after all these years? Izuku. That's because I come from the past. Iida was somewhat confused by what the freckled boy had said, so Izuku told him that he had found a strange machine in the support workshop and that this machine was the cause of his being transported to the future. At first, Iida didn't seem to believe him, except for the fact that the green-haired boy looked so young and it coincided with the day the freckled boy had disappeared. So Izuku guided Iida towards the machine. Izuku. Do you think I can go back to the past? Iida. I don't know. The controls are pretty damaged, not to mention we need a huge power source to make this machine work. Izuku. You can fix it. Receiving a negative response. Iida. I'm sorry, but without the blueprints, it will be difficult for me to repair it and make it work. The only person who could do it would be Hatsume. Izuku. Then let's go ask her if she can help us. Leaving the place. Iida. Izuku, it's not that easy. Stopping the green-haired boy. Izuku. What are you talking about? Iida. I lost contact with all our comrades. They gave up, just like everyone else. He said it in a sad tone. Izuku. But we're heroes. We have to save and protect people. Iida. And look how it turned out. As she showed him her legs, which were just prosthetics, Izuku was shocked to see it. Iida. The people we were supposed to help, the people we were supposed to protect, took my legs. His voice is about to break, understand this. The heroes have lost. There's nothing we can do now. Sadly, it's too late. Follow me. I'll show you where you can stay. There are still rooms that weren't destroyed. Izuku simply followed his friend to a room where he would be staying. Iida told him he would be a few rooms away if he needed anything. With that, Izuku went to bed, which was somewhat dirty and damaged, but at least comfortable. The freckled boy's head was a mess, but he decided he had to fix it. In the middle of the night, Iida woke up to a loud bang, so he quickly went to where the noise was coming from. When he arrived, he saw the freckled boy carrying some things while trying to fix the machine. Iida. What do you think you're doing? Izuku. If you're not going to help me, I'll do it myself. But he only received a small shock. If I can go back to the past, I can prevent this future from existing. You may have already lost hope, but I never will. No matter how many times I fall, I will always get up and fight until the end. Upon seeing the green-haired boy, Iida could see All Might continuing to fight until the end, but then he heard the freckled boy receive another shock. Iida. You're doing it wrong. If you want to fix this, you need the right tools. As he moved the freckled boy aside and started repairing, Izuku smiled at this, and the two spent the whole night trying to fix the machine. Chapter 3. The two spent the entire night trying to repair the machine until they could feel the small rays of sunlight entering through the tiny cracks. Izuku climbed inside the machine and nodded, signaling Iida to turn it on. Without wasting any time, Iida began powering it up, and when everything seemed to be going normally, the machine started malfunctioning until it caught fire. The two acted quickly and managed to extinguish the blaze. Izuku. Hey Iida, do you know where to get new parts? I think some cables and other parts failed. Iida. Izuku, that's useless. Without the blueprints, we'll just keep failing. I'm sorry. Izuku. Don't give up so easily. Even if we failed once, we can't give up. I know we can get this thing working again. When Iida saw that his friend wouldn't give up so easily, he sighed and remained thinking for a few seconds before speaking. Iida. Follow me, we're going to see someone. As he started walking. Izuku. Who? You said you'd lost contact with everyone. Confused tone. Iida. I lied. I know where to find one of our classmates, but I never thought we'd have to ask him for help out of all of them. I just hope he's in the mood. After saying that, the two left UA and carefully moved through the streets of the destroyed city, where villains could be seen walking freely, destroying some buildings that were still standing. After a few minutes, they arrived, and Izuku, upon seeing the place, was surprised. Izuku. Iida, what are we doing in Tartaro's prison, or rather, what's left of it? While following the blue-haired boy through the abandoned corridors. Iida. This is where he is. They reached the deepest part of that prison where they could see someone sitting on the floor, staring at the wall. Izuku approached to get a better look and was shocked to see that the person was none other than his childhood friend, Katsuki Bakugo. Izuku. Kachin, in a surprised tone. Katsuki. That voice, turning around quickly. The ash-haired boy, upon doing so, saw the green-haired and blue-haired boys in front of him. He slowly rose from the ground and walked slowly towards them, but he could not get too close because of the chains that prevented him from advancing further. Tatsuki. Deku, in a confused and happy tone. Izuku. Yes, it's me, approaching his friend. Tatsuki didn't know how to feel, since after all these years his friend was right in front of him after he had presumed him dead, but then a wave of anger flooded his head and he headbutted the green-haired boy, knocking him to the ground. Iida quickly helped the freckled boy to his feet. Tatsuki. After all these years, why did you decide to show up right now? He said angrily. Iida. Wait, Katsuki, there's an explanation for all this. Tatsuki. You shut up. While we were suffering, where was he? When those damn bastards appeared and killed everyone we knew, where was Izuku? Izuku. Kachin, just listen to me. I come from the past. Tatsuki. You really think I'm going to believe that crap? Iida. He's right. Just look at him. He still looks the same. Tatsuki. And you believe him? I bet it's because of a quirk. But that doesn't matter. Tell me why you're here. Iida. I want to know if you know where I can find Mei. I know you get visits from some of our classmates, and well, I was wondering if you knew where we could find her. Tatsuki. No. Besides, even if I knew where she was, I wouldn't tell them, especially you. Looking at the green-haired boy. Iida. I knew this was a bad idea. Well, see you later. Let's go, Izuku. There's no need to wasting our time, leaving. Izuku. Wait, Iida, let me try something. As he approached the ash-blonde Kachin, listen, I'm sorry for everything that happened, but… Tatsuki. Seriously, that's all you're going to say after what we had to go through? Don't come at me with your laments. Izuku. You're right, I have no idea what you had to go through, that's why I need your help to fix all this. Tatsuki. It's better if you leave, as he returned to the darkness. Izuku said nothing more and walked away from the place. Izuku. I'm sorry for wasting your time, looking at Iida. The two were about to leave, but Katsuki spoke up. Tatsuki. I don't know where that damn extra is, but Kirishima might know. So the ash-haired man gave them the address where they could find the deed. Izuku. Kachin, but was interrupted. Tatsuki. Don't thank me, I'm not doing this for you, I'm doing it because I owe Four Eyes a favor. After saying that, the two left the place, but Izuku felt sad about what had happened to his friend. Izuku. What happened to Katsuki? Iida. Sighing, Katsuki had a mission to stop some villains, but they set a trap for him, and as a result, he caused the death of a family. The villains had planned everything and blamed him for it. Izuku. But if they blamed him unfairly, how did he end up in prison? Iida. It was all very well planned, and when they couldn't find any evidence to the contrary, Kitsuki surrendered. Almight did everything he could to get him more humane treatment than the other villains, and all he managed to do was get him handcuffed and separated from the other prisoners. But even though the villains won and left the prison, he stayed. I tried every possible way to get him out of there, but he refused, saying that he still has a sentence to pay. Izuku didn't say anything else and could only follow the blue-haired boy. The two had taken a car that, although it had some broken parts, still worked, but it didn't have enough gas. So the two set off, and as the hours passed, night fell and the car ran out of gas. So the two set up a small camp, while in the distance a person was watching them, and then they left the place. Chapter 4. The next day, Izuku was waking up, but before he could do anything, his mouth was covered by the blue-haired boy's hand, who signaled him to be quiet. Izuku didn't understand, but then he heard voices. He turned toward the source of the voices and saw a group of villains lurking in the area. The two were ready to retreat, but unfortunately, when Iida tried to get up, he made a small sound that caught the villains' attention. They launched an attack on the car, which instantly exploded, sending Izuku and Iida flying and landing in front of the villains. Villain 1. Well, look what we have here. Villain 2. I thought the heroes had surrendered. Villain 3. Hey, look at this one, grabbing Iida, if it isn't the younger brother of the former hero Ingenium. Villain 4. And who are you supposed to be? While grabbing the green-haired boy. The villain tried to remove his hood, but Izuku, in a swift movement, separated himself from the villain, creating some distance. Villain 3. Look, we have a warrior, he said it in a mocking tone. The villains quickly surrounded the freckled boy, who could only watch their every move, while Iida slowly retreated to grab a weapon to help his partner. The villains then launched themselves at the freckled boy, who began dodging their attacks and counterattacking. Little by little, the villains were gaining the upper hand, as they were very well coordinated. However, in a moment of carelessness, one of the villains fell unconscious after Iida struck him with a steel bar. Despite losing one of their comrades, the villains managed to take down the green-haired and blue-haired boys. Izuku looked for a way to escape, but then he saw a truck fall from the sky, nearly crushing the villains. Villain 1. Quickly call for reinforcements. As he said that, one of his companions launched a flare, but before they could do anything else, someone began throwing several rocks that hit the villains, knocking them unconscious. Izuku, like his friend, was confused by what had just happened, but then they saw a hooded and masked figure appear in front of them. The two boys became alert, but then they saw the person grab their hands and begin to pull them. We have to leave before the reinforcements arrive. After a few hours, the three of them were hiding in the ruins of a house. Izuku was still on alert, keeping a watchful eye on the person who was keeping watch, and when he saw that there were no villains nearby, he approached the others. Iida. Thank you for saving us from those villains. Uraraka. Don't thank me. After all, it's good to see you after so long, Iida. Iida. Wait, you know me? Confused tone, Uraraka. That's right. I could never forget my friend. As she removed her hood and mask, revealing a brunette. Iida. Uraraka. Happily. Uraraka. It's been so many years. So the two hugged, for after so many years they had finally been reunited. Uraraka. By the way, what are you doing around here and who is he? Pointing at the green-haired boy. Iida. Well, this might sound strange, but he's Izuku. Upon hearing that, the brunette was shocked and turned to look at the freckled boy who had just taken off his hood. Izuku. Hello, while smiling nervously. Uraraka. Deku-kun, unable to believe it. But before Izuku could speak, he was knocked to the ground while Uraraka was on top of him, hugging him and crying into his chest. A few hours passed before the girl calmed down and they explained the whole situation to her. Uraraka decided she would help them, because if there was a way to change all this and have a better world, then they could count on her. So the three of them set about planning how to continue their search for the person who knew where the pink-haired girl might be. Meanwhile, elsewhere, the defeated villains could be seen standing before a person with white hair. And you could tell me what happened, angrily. Villain 1. We ran into two heroes and when we were about to eliminate them, someone else appeared and knocked us unconscious. As he said that, the white-haired man looked at the villain, who tensed up and stepped back a little, but before anything could happen, another villain spoke. Villain 3. But one of those heroes had a rather strange quirk. What kind of quirk? A little interested while calming down a bit. Villain 2. Well, he started releasing lightning bolts from his body. At first, we thought it was an electricity quirk, but we were wrong, and suddenly that person was much faster and stronger. Having said that, the villain fell silent, seeing that the white-haired man said nothing, which made the small group of villains nervous. But then they heard the white-haired man speak again. Anything else you have to tell me about those people? Villain 3. Yes, one of those heroes was the younger brother of the hero Ingenium and the person who had that strange quirk drop this while handing him a wallet. The white-haired man signaled for the wallet to be brought to him and upon opening it, he saw an identification card. Seeing it, he felt a powerful murderous instinct that frightened all the villains and little by little, the wallet completely disintegrated. He then stood up from his seat and gave an order to all the villains present. Listen carefully, I want you to tell the others to catch that person and bring them to me, and whoever manages to bring them to me will receive a great reward. Upon hearing that, all the villains withdrew from the scene. Then a portal opened and a purple mist emerged from it. Kurogiri, I want you to send the League of Villains. Kurogiri. Did something happen, Tamura? Seeing the villain's deranged smile. Tamura. It seems All Might's successor has appeared after all these years, and this time one for all will be mine. While looking towards the destroyed city. Chapter 5. Izuku and his friends continued on their way, and as they did, Uraraka began to tell them what she had done after the villains had won the fight and Japan was slowly heading towards destruction. After a few minutes, they arrived at a bar, and upon entering, they immediately attracted the attention of everyone there. Uraraka told them to find a place to sit while she gathered some information. Izuku was nervous and somewhat scared of everyone staring at him. Ida. Ignore them, just don't look them in the eyes, he said it in a calm tone. Izuku nodded in agreement with his friend and they ordered some food. After a few minutes, Uraraka returned, telling them that a fight was held every night and that they might find the person they were looking for there. For the rest of the day, the three of them continued searching for more information about the individual, but every time they tried to describe the person's characteristics, people's behavior changed drastically, making it difficult to gather information. They kept wondering who the person they were looking for was. When night fell, the three went to the fight and upon arriving, they could see how excited everyone was. The three waited for the fights to begin. As the hours passed, Izuku watched the fighters show no mercy, even killing their opponents. In the penultimate fight, Izuku saw one of the fighters, unwilling to die, jump into the arena and knock out the intended winner. Seeing this, the crowd quickly began throwing things and hurling insults at him. Izuku? Are you alright? Approaching the man who was quite injured. Man. Why yes, thank you for saving me. I owe you one. Izuku. It was nothing. I just did what any hero would have done. That's all. Man. A hero? In a confused tone. But before Izuku could answer, the announcer. Announcer. Hey Brad, what do you think you're doing? You knocked out the person who was going to advance to the finals. Angrily. Izuku. Then I'll fight in their place. Announcer. You. Mockingly, but then he saw how angry the crowd was and smiled, if that's what you want. Having said that, the presenter turned around and took a breath before speaking again. Announcer. Ladies and gentlemen, finally the fight everyone's been waiting for. On this side we have this brat who tried to play the hero. As he said that, the crowd started jeering at him, and on this side we have our beloved champion, the one who's left thousands of people with broken bones and trauma, with you, Red Riot. As he said that, people began to shout with excitement and music began to play in the background. Then there was a huge explosion and out of it emerged a man with long red hair. He had teeth like a shark's and a look that conveyed great pain. Izuku Uraraka. Kirishima, they said in a surprised tone. Izuku. Kirishima, but he couldn't finish because he had to dodge a blow from the Deity. Kirishima. Wait, but he had to dodge another attack, I guess you've left me no other choice. As he spoke, he began to unleash green lightning and kick the Deity in the face, which didn't even faze him. Kirishima then punched the freckled boy in the face, sending him flying across the arena. The crowd erupted in cheers. Izuku, in a swift motion, punched him in the stomach, but it didn't seem to affect the Deity until he landed another blow to the face, this time stunning him. Ida. Something's not right. He said it in a serious tone. Uraraka. What do you mean by that? She sounded confused. Ida. Follow me. I have a feeling. But that, Uraraka followed him, while Izuku tried to calm the Deity down, but his attempts were useless. The people were excited because no one had lasted so long against the Deity, while Ida and Uraraka had reached a rather large antenna. Uraraka. Do you want to tell me what's going on? Slightly annoyed. Ida. I think Kirishima is being controlled. Uraraka. What? Somewhat confused. Ida. During the fight, I noticed something strange about Kirishima's mask, like a control device. Uraraka. I see. By the way, what are you doing? Watching as his friend disconnected some cables from the tower and moved them around. Ida. I'm going to create a small electromagnetic wave that will cause all electronic devices to malfunction for a few moments. Uraraka. And how did you learn to do that? Surprised tone. Ida. Well, when you're alone for a long time, you have to find a hobby so you don't go crazy. I just hope it's long enough for Izuku to knock our friend out. While making the final adjustments to the antenna, Iida connected the last cables, and as he did so, the antenna began to malfunction, emitting sparks until it created an electromagnetic wave that caused all electronic devices to stop working. The blue-haired boy fell to the ground as his legs gave out, while in the fight, all the lights went out and some electrical appliances began to short-circuit. Back with Izuku, he was lying on the ground as Kirishima approached him, raising his fists to end the fight. Izuku could only cover himself with his arms, but he saw Kirishima suddenly touch his head while shouting. Izuku didn't know what was happening, but he took advantage of this opportunity and, in a swift movement, delivered a powerful kick to Kirishima's neck, knocking him unconscious. When Kirishima fell to the ground, everyone fell silent until they began to shout with excitement for the fight. Izuku approached his friend and removed his mask, seeing that it contained a device, which he then destroyed. Izuku picked up the Deity, and he left the place while people continued to congratulate him on his victory. Chapter 6. Izuku arrived where his friends were, and upon seeing the unconscious Kirishima, they quickly approached him to help carry the Deity. They then retreated to a safe place where they waited for several hours until they saw the Deity slowly begin to awaken. Kirishima. Where am I? In a confused and somewhat pained tone. Uraraka. I'm glad you're awake. Approaching her friend. Kirishima. Uraraka, Iida and Izuku, what are you doing here? He said in a surprised tone. Iida. It's a long story. Kirishima didn't know what to say, so the three of them explained the situation to him, to which Kirishima was surprised and somewhat regretful for attacking the freckled boy. Kirishima. By the way, how did you find me? He said curiously. Izuku. Well, Kachin told us where to find you. Kirishima. Wait, did you see Boku bro? He said in a surprised tone, receiving a nod. I imagine he didn't come with you, right? Iida. I'm sorry, but he's still there. Referring to the prison. Kirishima. I see. He said sadly. After that, nobody said anything until the freckled boy spoke. Izuku. Hey Kirishima, do you remember who was controlling you? Kirishima. I'm sorry, I don't remember anything. In fact, I don't remember anything I've been doing these past few months. The last thing I remember is going to visit Bakubro, and when I left, someone attacked me. Izuku. You were attacked? Surprised tone. Kirishima. That's right. But then he got a severe headache and put his hands to his head. Uraraka. Relax, don't push yourself. You should rest. Kirishima. You're right. As he lay back down. Iida. We should talk about this tomorrow. For now, we should rest. But that said, everyone went to sleep, while at the place where the fight between the green-haired boy and the red-haired boy had taken place, the announcer of the fight could be seen quite injured, while in front of him stood the League of Villains. Presenter. Please don't hurt me anymore, he said in a weak tone. Abi. Where are the heroes? In a serious tone. Presenter. I don't know, after the fight that boy took our champion. Abi. Which way did they go? While grabbing him by the shirt and lifting him by the collar. Presenter. They went that way, pointing in a direction. Upon hearing this, the presenter fell to the floor as the villains retreated. But just when the presenter thought he was safe, he saw Dabi turn around, extend his hand with a sadistic look, form a gun, and fire a small burst of flame, burning him alive and killing him instantly. The next day, the freckled boy could be seen calmly chatting with his friends. Izuku. Hey Kirishima, calling the Deitty's attention. Kirishima. What's up, Izu bro? Izuku. I was wondering if you knew where we could find Mei, since that's the main reason we came to you. Kirishima. Oh, I see. Well, the last I heard of her, she was outside the city, while putting his hand on his chin. Iida. Outside the city? In a questioning tone. Kirishima. That's right, but that was a long time ago, before I was controlled. Izuku. Iida, are you okay? Looking at his friend, somewhat thoughtful. Iida. Well, I've heard rumors that some people are hiding outside the city, preparing for a revolution, but like I said, they're just rumors. Uraraka. No, actually, I've heard them too, but I don't think it's true, since it would be impossible to leave the city without the villains and the Nanas seeing you. Kirishima. Unless, calling everyone's attention. Iida. What's wrong? Seeing the expression of the Deity. Kirishima. There's a way out of the city, but it would be suicide to try. Izuku. And what is that way? If there's a way out of the city and to find Mei, we have to try. Looking at his friends. Kirishima. The only way out of the city is through the north side. Upon hearing that, Uraraka and Iida were shocked, but the freckled boy didn't know what they were talking about. Izuku. What's on the north side? Uraraka. Izuku, the north side is where the League of Villains main base is located and where Tamura spends most of his time. A little agitated. Iida. It's very dangerous to go there. There must be another way. Starting to think of another way to leave the city. So the small group began to devise a plan that would be less risky. Izuku, knowing almost nothing about the newcomer, left the place, followed by Uraraka. Uraraka. I'm sorry you didn't get the answer you were looking for. Izuku. Don't worry, and I also appreciate you deciding to join us on this journey. Uraraka. Don't thank me. Actually, this reminds me of the old days, us trying to become pro-heroes together. She said with a nostalgic smile. Izuku. Uraraka, I promise that when I return, I'll do everything I can to change this future. That's a promise. Giving her a smile. Uraraka. Izuku, But before they could finish, they were interrupted by Iida, who approached them and told them that they already had a plan. Izuku. Well, what are we going to do now? Iida. Continue with our mission, but if we want to succeed, we're going to need help. Uraraka. But who else are we going to ask? Confused tone. Hiroshima. We're going to ask our old friends. Upon hearing that, the freckled boy and the brown-haired girl were surprised. Izuku. Wait, so that means. Hiroshima. That's right, Class 1 will reunite. He said it happily. After saying that, Kirishima explained the locations of their other classmates in the other classes. Izuku told them they had to split up, which the three quickly refused to do, but he convinced them by saying that if they separated, they could find their classmates in the other classes faster. So they said their goodbyes and left the place, where a few hours later the League of Villains appeared. Compress. It seems they were here, checking the campfire. What do you think? Looking at Dabi. Dabi? They shouldn't have left. It's been a while. It's best if we split up and look for them. I want to finish this as quickly as possible. With that, the villains separated and began searching the area, while in the distance Izuku and his friends could be seen watching the villains. Iida. If they're here, it means. Uraraka. Tamura knows about you, looking at the freckled boy. We'd better hurry. After saying that, everyone quickly left the place. Chapter 7. Days passed, and Izuku hadn't found any trace of his friends, but he had encountered several villains who tried to capture him. Along the way, the green-haired boy had helped some people. Currently, the freckled boy could be seen walking along the old train tracks. Night had fallen, so he decided to spend the night there, lighting a campfire. Izuku. I hope the others were lucky enough to find them. Saying that, he tried to get some sleep, but a noise alerted him, so he quickly put out the campfire and hid. It wasn't long before he heard footsteps of several people approaching the place. Person 1. Hey, what do you think you're doing? Person 2. I saw a light coming from this direction. Person 1. I think it was just your imagination. As he was about to leave. Person 2. I think you're right. Turning around. The two people were about to leave when they heard a noise. Turning around, they heard a small fight breaking out. Izuku didn't know what was happening and could only hear the villains activating their quirks to attack until there was a moment when nothing could be heard. The green-haired boy decided it would be best to leave, so he turned around, but as he did, he came face to face with someone wearing a mask. Instinctively, Izuku took a step back and got into a fighting stance. It seems there's one more. Let's finish this quickly, his companions shouldn't be long in arriving. While they were talking, Izuku could only stare at them, never letting his guard down, but something about those guys seemed quite familiar until he saw a black figure emerge from the back of one of them, joining their argument. Izuku. Dark Shadow, in a surprised tone, I hope that means you must be Tokoyami, pointing at the person who had Dark Shadow, and you must be. She paused for a moment, not knowing who the person was, until she heard a small sound like a frog. Izuku. You're Tsayu, pointing at her. Tokoyami. Wait, how do you know our names? In a surprised tone, but they saw the freckled boy approach them and give them a smile. When people saw the green-haired boy, they were surprised, and the first to approach the freckled boy was Dark Shadow, who began to touch him to see if he wasn't an impostor or part of some villainous plan. Dark Shadow. You're the real one? He said in a surprised tone. Tokoyami. But how did we think you had died? Izuku. I know, but there's something you need to know. Izuku was going to tell them what had happened, but they had to dodge a blue fire, and a league of villains appeared and surrounded them. Dabi. Oh, so that's why Tamura wanted us to take you to him. While looking at the freckled boy. It can't be, you're alive. She said excitedly. Dabi. Toga, calm down. Remember our mission. Toga. Yeah, whatever you say. Ignoring her partner's comment, hey, Izu baby, do you remember me? It's me, Himiko Toga. While waving her hand at him. Dabi. Compress, take care of them. Upon saying that, the villain quickly leaped towards the freckled boy to trap him inside a marble, but he had to dodge an attack from Dark Shadow. Thus began a small fight in which the villains were winning, but Izuku, with his black whips, grabbed Compress by the foot and sent him flying towards the villains. When they managed to recover from the attack, they realized that the heroes were gone. Meanwhile, Izuku was walking through the sewers following his companions. Along the way, the freckled boy told them what had happened and also spoke about his objective of finding Mei on the outskirts of the city. When Tokoyami and Seiya heard that the green-haired boy wanted to leave the city, they warned him that it was complete suicide, to which he replied that he already had a plan. After a few minutes, the three had reached a safe place, allowing them to talk a little more calmly. Izuku. And tell me, will you help me get out? Tokoyami and Seiya looked at each other for a few moments before speaking. Seiya. Izuku, listen, even though we were very happy to see you, I'm afraid we can't go with you. Izuku. Why? Confused tone. Tokoyami. Because that's suicide. Besides, they're probably just following a rumor. What would happen if they managed to get out and discovered there was nothing there? Would you really risk your life for a simple rumor? Izuku. That's right. He said it in a determined tone. After that, nobody said anything, which caused a somewhat awkward silence, while elsewhere the League of Villains could be seen in front of Tamura, who seemed so annoyed that he disintegrated his own seat. Tamura. Kurogiri, prepare the non-us. Perhaps they'll do a better job. While looking at the League, who simply looked away in annoyance. As he said that, the purple fog dissipated and after a few minutes a portal opened, from which 10 low-level non-us emerged. Tamura. Listen, I want you to bring him to me, while showing them an old photo where the green-haired boy could be seen, but I want him to be alive. With that, the non-us ran off to find their target. The next day, Tokoyami was the first to wake up, but upon doing so, he noticed that the freckled boy was nowhere to be seen. He deduced that he had left to continue his mission to find the pink-haired girl. Meanwhile, Izuku was walking towards their agreed-upon meeting point, but as he did, he couldn't stop thinking about whether they were alright and were only risking their lives to confirm if the rumor that Mei was outside the city was true. So, with that in mind, he continued on his way to reunite with his friends. Chapter 8. After a few hours, the freckled boy arrived at the meeting point and simply waited for his friends to return. A few hours later, his friends arrived along with some of their classmates, as well as some from Class B. When they saw the freckled boy, they greeted him, and some even hugged him. Although Class A wasn't complete, at least they had reunited, something some had thought impossible. Izuku told them that he had run into Tokoyami and Seiya, but they hadn't wanted to come because they didn't want to go on a suicide mission, just to follow a rumor. After the brief meeting, Izuku decided to explain what they would do, but when he did, there was complete silence until small whispers began to be heard. Seeing that some didn't seem very convinced, Izuku decided to speak. Izuku. Listen, I'm not good at giving speeches, but I'll just say this is madness and a suicidal act. I won't force you to do anything against your will, but I just want you to understand this. I'm aware that many here have gone through things I can't even imagine, but I know that if there's a way to change all this, we have to try. Nobody said anything and they could only look at each other until someone spoke. Ajiro. Well, I'll go with you. As he said that, several whispers were heard, so he turned to look at his friends. Listen, Izuku is right. If there's at least one way to change all this, we have to try. Just think, if our teachers were still alive and saw us hiding and letting the villains get away with it, what do you think they'd say to us? Aoyama. Probably Aizawa-sensei would scold us and give us extra homework. Upon hearing that, some students in Class A burst out laughing, imagining their teacher scolding them. Kendo. You're right. If Vlad King saw us, he'd definitely scold us, but he'd tell us that we have to strive and not give up, no matter what the challenge is, so you can count on me. Little by little, everyone agreed to help the freckled boy with his mission. Izuku thanked them for their help and quickly began to explain his plan. They prepared to enter the lion's den, while Tamura lay in bed, his breathing becoming labored as he kept hearing in his head that he had to obtain one for all. He got out of bed, touched his head, and walked over to a mirror. Tamura. After all these years you're still telling me what to do, sensei, but this time I'll do it my way. A psychopathic laugh appeared on his face. Back with the freckled boy, he was preparing for what was to come. Once everyone was ready, they headed towards their destination. In the sky, an Onu flew overhead, but upon seeing the freckled boy, it quickly flew away. After a few hours, they had all arrived at the area where the villains were located. Izuku seemed nervous, but he felt someone place a hand on his shoulder. Turning around, he saw it was his friends. The freckled boy smiled and nodded, and they put their plan into action. As they continued deeper into the area, Izuku heard several screams coming from a room. He separated to see what was happening, but upon arriving, he quickly covered his mouth to stifle his own scream. He could see that some heroes were alive but being tortured, their arms and legs connected to various machines. Then, among the crowd, he spotted someone familiar. Approaching, he saw it was Kaminari and, without wasting any time, went to his friend. Izuku. Kaminari, hang on. I'll get you out of here, just like the others. While searching for a way to free them. Kaminari. Izuku, is that really you? He said weakly. Izuku. Hang on. While activating his quirk and as he was about to hit the machine, he was stopped by his friend. Kaminari. Izuku, wait, don't do it. Izuku. What? Confused. Kaminari. Tamura brought us here to feed this whole damn place. If you were to free one of us, the villains would notice. After saying that, the freckled boy saw Kaminari start screaming in pain as an electric current coursed through his body, as well as through everyone else present, but then they heard an alarm start to sound throughout the place, making Izuku jump. Izuku. I didn't do anything, he said in an agitated tone. Kaminari. They know you're here, you have to leave quickly. Then they both heard someone calling the freckled boy, so they turned around and saw it was Iida and Uraraka, who looked scared. Uraraka. Izuku, we have to go. Izuku. But turning to see all the heroes chained up and suffering in pain, but then they heard a loud noise. Iida. There's no time. The villains will arrive soon. We have to leave here now. Izuku. I'll come back, I promise. Looking at the heroes. Having said that, the freckled boy and his friends left the place and went to where the others were. When they arrived, several villains were in front of them, so everyone got into fighting positions, but then they saw Tamura emerge from the crowd, which caused some heroes to back down. Iida. This is bad. Seeing how they were outnumbered. Tamura. I didn't think you were foolish enough to enter this place. Now, where is the wielder of One for All? But that, Izuku took a step forward while maintaining a serious expression. Tamura. Well, so the rumors were true. But let's not prolong this conversation any longer. I propose a deal. Give me One for All, and in exchange, I'll let you live. Izuku. I'd rather die than give it to you. He said it in a cold tone. Tamura. Then I think I'll have to take it from your corpse. With that, the villain snapped his fingers, and all the villains, along with some of the non-us, charged at the heroes, who didn't hesitate and also charged at the villains. From the beginning, they knew who would be victorious, but amidst all the chaos, someone grabbed the freckled boy and his companions and led them to a place away from the fighting. That person was none other than Tokoyami. Izuku. Tokoyami, in a surprised tone. Tokoyami. Quick, this way, while guiding them towards an exit where Seiya was. Seiya. Follow me, I'll get you out of here. But then they saw some villains approaching the place. Tokoyami. Quick, go. We'll distract them. He sent Dark Shadow to buy some time. Izuku. But you can come with us. Not wanting to leave his friend. Seiya. What are you waiting for? We have to go. Tokoyami. Izuku, go. If the rumor is true, you can change all this. It won't do any good if they catch you. Go. I trust you. He smiled. Izuku. Don't let them beat you so easily. Tokoyami. I won't. With that, Izuku started running towards his other classmates, while Tokoyami found himself surrounded by several villains who were ready to attack him. Dark Shadow. Are you ready? Looking at his friend. Tokoyami. Of course I am. With a determined look, goodbye Seiya. Having said that, the two of them launched themselves towards the villains. Chapter 9. Back with the freckled boy and his companions, they had managed to escape the city and were looking for a place to hide from the non-us. They walked for a while until they decided to rest in a cave. Izuku saw how sad his friends looked because although they knew the risks there and by going to the villain's fortress, they weren't prepared to lose their friends. Izuku saw that Seiya seemed the most affected, so he turned to look at Uraraka, who simply nodded. He approached his friend, and when he did, Seiya could only hug her. Uraraka returned the hug and could only offer comfort. Izuku couldn't help but lower his head, but then he felt a hand touch his shoulder. Turning around, he saw that it was the blue-haired boy. Iida. They knew the dangers of this mission and still chose to follow us. Our friends gave us a chance to escape. We mustn't let their sacrifices be in vain. Lamenting now won't do us any good. We'd better start devising a plan for what we'll do from now on and where we can begin searching for Mei. Meanwhile, in the League of Villains, Tokoyami could be seen badly injured and lying on the ground. At that moment, Tamura grabbed him by the neck and lifted him up, causing the hero to writhe in pain. Tamura. Tell me why you wanted to leave the city, while tightening his grip. Tokoyami. Rot in hell, he said weakly while spitting in his face. Tamura simply disintegrated it slowly while listening to the hero's screams until there was no sound at all. He began to walk, but on the ground he saw a lock of green hair. He picked it up and as he did so, a twisted smile appeared on his face. Tamura summoned a Nonu that was different from the others, approached it, and made it smell the lock of hair. "Tamura. Bring him to me." He said it in a cold tone. With that, the Nonu let out a loud shriek, and 2 pairs of wings sprouted from its back as it flew away. Returning to the freckled boy, he was walking aimlessly with his friends, though he was a bit far behind, feeling guilty about what had just happened. Izuku was so lost in thought that he didn't notice something approaching from behind until it was too late. He had already been lifted off the ground. Izuku let out a small cry that alarmed his companions, who turned to see the green-haired boy being carried away by a Nonu. Without wasting a moment, they acted quickly to save their friend. Seiya grabbed the freckled boy's leg with her tongue, while Iida held her to prevent her from being dragged away by the creature. Seeing that he wasn't moving, the Nonu looked down and observed what was happening, but before he could do anything, a rock struck him, causing them both to fall. Before Izuku hit the ground, he grabbed onto a tree branch, preventing himself from falling. Meanwhile, the monster destroyed every branch until it reached the ground, but quickly recovered and headed towards the freckled boy. Before reaching its target, it was stopped by several objects aimed at it, thus unleashing a fight. However, it seemed that all the attacks it received had no effect. As the hours passed, the Nonu seemed to adapt to the hero's attacks, so much so that some of them no longer even caused it any damage. But in a moment of carelessness on the hero's part, the creature grabbed Izuku by the leg and slammed him against the ground repeatedly, leaving him almost unconscious. His friends quickly rushed to help him, but the Nonu used the green-haired boy's nearly unconscious body and struck the heroes, knocking them out of the fight. Somewhat dazed, Izuku only saw as the Nonu spread its wings and prepared to fly away, but before it could, the creature was attacked again by several unknown people. The Nonu left him on the ground and launched itself at the people who had appeared. Izuku had small fainting spells due to his condition, but he watched as that group of people ended up eliminating the creature. Then he saw one of them slowly approach him, but his vision gradually began to blur, and he lost consciousness. After a few hours, the freckled boy woke up startled. He quickly checked the place and saw that he wasn't wearing his shirt and instead his body was bandaged. Hearing some noises, Izuku went to where they were coming from. When he got closer, he saw his friends, who were still unconscious and being checked over by some people, but then someone appeared behind him and threw him to the ground while putting him in a headlock. "Izuku. Oh listen, we don't want any trouble, we're just looking for someone." "And who is that person?" "Izuku. May, we're looking for Hatsume." With that, the person released the freckled boy and extended their hand. Izuku, somewhat confused, took the hand, getting up from the ground, but then he saw the person signal for him to follow. "Person. I'm sorry about earlier." "Izuku. It's okay." "Person. By the way, I've never seen you before. Where are you from?" "Izuku. Well, we come from the city." Upon hearing that, the person was surprised by what the green-haired boy had said. "Person. You guys left the city," receiving a nod. "Well, that would explain Nonu." "Izuku. Although most of my classmates didn't make it, they stayed behind to face the villains so we could escape." He said it in a sad tone. "Person. I'm sorry to hear that, but if they decided to sacrifice themselves so you could leave the city, it must be something important." "Izuku. That's right." But they stopped there, having arrived at the place. First, that person went in, and after a few minutes, he came out and told the freckled boy to go in. When the freckled boy entered, he saw various devices everywhere, and in the middle of them, he saw a pink-haired girl. Izuku was surprised and happy to see her. "Izuku. May," he said in a happy tone. Chapter 10. The aforementioned girl raised her head to look at the freckled boy, and before she could do anything, the machine she was working on exploded, causing her to fly out and crash into the freckled boy, landing on top of him. "Izuku. I guess old habits die hard," he thought to himself. "May. Wow, so you really have returned, and you still look the same as when we were at UA. I see the rumors were true." "Izuku. It's good to see you too, May, but how did you know I haven't changed at all?" Confused tone. "May. Well, as she stood up, the rumors about you are everywhere. By the way, I heard what happened with Tamura. I'm sorry not everyone made it out." "Izuku. That doesn't matter. What matters now is that I need your help." "May. Sure, and how can I help you?" As she went back to repairing a machine. "Izuku. I need you to rebuild the time machine." Having said that, May stopped working and turned to look at the freckled boy. "May. The time machine," in a confused tone. Izuku told her what happened that day and about the machine that transported him to the future. When he finished telling her, May had a thoughtful look until she decided to speak. "May. I'm so sorry, Izuku, but over the years I've built so many machines that I don't remember the materials I need to create it. But if you have the blueprints, I'd be happy to help." When the girl said she needed the blueprints, Izuku was shocked since they had left them at UA, and he could only curse in his head, as everything he had done up to that point had been in vain. Mei saw Izuku staring into space and assumed he didn't have the blueprints, so she just kept working. A few hours later, the freckled boy was talking to Iida privately, telling him what Mei had said, which caused the blue-haired boy to curse as well, but he managed to remain calm. So, Izuku and Iida decided to approach the pink-haired girl. Izuku. Hey Mei, did you build this place? Mei. It wasn't just me. I had a lot of help. Even though some people lost hope, others didn't, so we decided to build this place to take refuge from the villains. Iida. By the way, the people still inside the city say that those who managed to escape are planning some kind of rebellion. Tell me, is that true? While looking at the girl. Mei. You're wrong. We're not planning anything. We're comfortable living here. Besides, we would undoubtedly lose to them again if we attacked. Izuku. But we have to rescue the people inside and the heroes who are still alive. Mei. There are no more heroes, Izuku. They're all gone, but she was interrupted by the freckled boy. Izuku. You're wrong. When we entered the villain's base, we saw that some heroes were still alive, as were our friends. Iida. Izuku is right. For years we thought all the heroes had been killed by the villains, but they're still alive, though trapped in some kind of machine. Mei. A machine? Confused tone. Izuku. That's right. Kaminari told me they're using them as an energy source to power the entire base. Mei. I don't think it's just for power. The two boys looked at each other in confusion, so the girl led them to a room where she searched through some things, taking out some blueprints and opening them on a table. Mei. Years ago, I discovered that Tamura was creating a machine, and to confirm my suspicions, I decided to send a group to spy on him. They told me that the machine needed a very large power source to function, but there was something else. While opening another blueprint. Izuku. What is that? Seeing the strange figure. Mei. I don't know, but whatever it is, it needs those heroes. After saying that, there was a brief silence as Izuku and Iida were pondering what it could be, so Iida spoke. Iida. Do you have any more information about this thing? Mei. I'm sorry, before I could find out more about the machine, I lost contact with the group I sent. All I have are several routes out of and into the city. While handing them some maps. Izuku and Iida carefully examined the routes when they heard a whistle that snapped them out of their thoughts. Izuku. What's that noise? Mei. It's an alarm. Leaving the place, followed by the freckled boy and the blue-haired girl, they saw everyone running around. The three of them arrived in front of a computer where they could see several villains, as well as Nanus in dog form, searching for something. Mei. This is strange. She said in a confused tone. Izuku. What do you mean by that? Mei. I've never seen several villains and Nanus in the same place. While activating the defense mechanisms. Iida. That's because they're looking for us. He said in a serious tone. They watched as the villains began to move away from the place, which made the girl let out a sigh of relief. Mei. Well, who's hungry? As she left the place. Iida also left, leaving the freckled boy alone. He stared at the screen and saw a villain look at the camera, which alarmed him, but then he saw the villain leave. Izuku went to where his other classmates were, eating. After eating, each of them was assigned a place to sleep, but Izuku couldn't sleep because he was haunted by memories of seeing the heroes suffering because of that machine and how several of his friends sacrificed themselves so they could escape. As the days passed, the freckled boy observed how his friends had gradually grown accustomed to being in that place and had completely forgotten the main reason they were there. It even seemed that Iida and Uraraka had forgotten their objective, which annoyed the freckled boy a little. Chapter 11. The days passed as Izuku tried to convince everyone to stop hiding and start fighting, but no one seemed to listen. He'd also heard people say more and more villains were appearing. Izuku tried to warn them that sooner or later the villains would find them, but he ended up getting imprisoned for upsetting everyone. So one night, when no one was looking, he went to Mei, who was asleep while repairing a machine. He stealthily stole some things and blueprints, then left, making sure no one saw him. The next day, no one seemed to have noticed the freckled boy until Uraraka decided to bring him some food, but she couldn't find him anywhere. She asked her other classmates, who all denied seeing him. After a few hours, the brunette told the blue-haired boy that she couldn't find the freckled boy. Surprised, he told her not to worry, that he'd turn up. To reassure his friend, he said he would go look for him. She agreed, and Iida began searching everywhere for him, but he couldn't find him until he remembered what the freckled boy had been telling him all these days, about going to rescue the trapped heroes. With that in mind, he quickly went to Mei and asked if she could give him the maps of the routes into the city, which she agreed to. But when he looked for them, he couldn't find them, which worried Iida. So he went to Uraraka to tell her that Izuku might have decided to return to the city to save the others. Upon hearing this, the brunette quickly wanted to go and stop the green-haired boy, but she was stopped by the blue-haired boy, who told her that Izuku was probably already in the city. So the two borrowed some things and set out to go after their friend, but they were stopped by their friends. Seiya. Where do you think you're going? Confused tone. Iida. We're going to save our friend. Seiya. Are you crazy? If you go, you might not have the same luck we did. Uraraka. Well, we'll take the risk. We won't let anything bad happen to him. We started this journey together and we'll finish it together, so don't try to stop us. As they got into fighting stances. The fight was about to break out when suddenly they heard a loud explosion, which set off several alarms. The villains had managed to find their hideout and people began to panic and run. Meanwhile, Izuku had entered the city and was heading to the place where all the captured heroes were being held. When he arrived, he saw that some of his classmates were still alive, but as he was about to free Kaminari, he heard a voice that made him turn around and see that it was Tamura. Tamura. I knew you'd come back, I just had to wait for you to do it. As he approached the freckled boy. Izuku. I'll stop you here and now. As he got into a fighting stance. Tamura. I want to see you try. With that, Tamura vanished in a blur of speed and reappeared in front of the freckled boy, delivering a blow that sent him flying. But before he could hit the wall, Tamura reappeared, kicking him in the stomach and knocking the wind out of him. The villain moved with incredible speed, making it impossible for the green-haired boy to see his attacks. The only way to dodge Tamura's attacks was to predict the direction from which he would strike. At first, it didn't seem to work, as he still received the villain's attacks, but little by little, he began to notice a pattern in Tamura's attacks, giving him a slight advantage. Izuku took advantage of Tamura's missed blows to free people, so they could help others. Meanwhile, the freckled boy's friends were fighting the villains, and the heroes were gradually gaining the upper hand. But then, everyone felt a small tremor that gradually intensified. The heroes used this to trap the villains in the base, causing it to collapse with them inside. When everyone managed to escape, they were left speechless. They were shocked to see a large crater forming in the city, but then they saw a flash of green and red in the sky, the two colors colliding. The tremor was so strong that it was felt throughout Japan, causing some to wonder what was happening. Iida approached Mei. Iida. Mei, we need to warn everyone in the city about what's happening. Mei. But since the transmission towers were destroyed by the earthquake. Then I think we can help with that. Everyone turned to see who the voice was, finding Kaminari as well as all the other heroes trapped in that machine. Back with the freckled boy, he had pulled the white-haired man towards him using his black whips and began to deliver a series of blows that left Tamura somewhat stunned. Izuku's thoughts. Damn it, I don't know how long I can stay airborne, but I mustn't let it fall back to the ground because it could cause even greater destruction than before. Out of his mind. Izuku kicked the villain in the face, but his leg was grabbed and squeezed tightly, causing him to groan in pain. Izuku could feel his leg slowly breaking, but he didn't let the pain distract him. He began launching small blasts of compressed air that hit the villain's face, causing him to tighten his grip. Then, Izuku fired a blast of compressed air that hit Tamura directly in the eye, bursting it and causing him to scream in pain and send the freckled boy crashing to the ground. Chapter 12. With each passing minute, the fight became more brutal and bloody. Izuku and Tamura were seriously injured, but they continued fighting nonetheless. Meanwhile, Izuku's friends had managed to raise a communication antenna, but then they saw several villains and nanas rapidly approaching them. Mei. Try to get the message across. While handing a microphone to the blue-haired boy and a camera to the brunette, we'll give them some time. Iida. Wait, but what if this doesn't work? What if people decide not to listen? Mei. Well, find a way to do it. I know you can. After saying that, everyone left the blue-haired boy alone while he stared indecisively at the microphone, but then he saw his friends facing off against the villains, so he mustered his courage and signaled to Uraraka to go on air. Iida. Citizens of Japan, my name is Tenya Iida, younger brother of the hero Ingenium. I address you all now to tell you that the time to rise up has arrived. I know you have lost your family, your friends, but now, pointing to the air, Izuku Midoriya, better known as Deku, is facing Tamura Shigaraki, the one who took everything from us. I know many of you are afraid, and believe me, I am too. But it will do no good to keep hiding. The good friend once told me, hiding is useless because sooner or later, what you fear most will find you. And so it was. The villains ended up finding me, but this time I decided to fight. I decided to confront what has haunted me for so long, and thanks to that, I found a reason. I found my friends, and now we are together to end this once and for all. I just want you to ask yourselves this question. Are you willing to continue living in hiding, or are you willing to fight for your freedom? How much more must we lose? Because of the villains, I am Iida Tenya, and in the name of my fallen comrades and brothers, we ask you to join us outside the League's base. In the name of the very symbol of peace, help us regain our freedom. As soon as she finished saying that, they heard an explosion, so Uraraka turned the camera around, focusing on Izuku, who punched Tamura, sending him crashing into the antenna they were using to transmit what was happening. Uraraka. Do you think it worked? In a worried tone. Ida. Let's hope so. Upon hearing this, they realized the villains were winning, so they rushed to help their companions. Meanwhile, elsewhere, a person was seen emerging from a structure about to collapse. Back with the heroes, they were experiencing some difficulties when they felt the ground begin to shake and heard several screams. Everyone turned to look and saw several people approaching the scene. Villain 1. What the hell? Well, backing away a little. Hiroshima. Great, the cavalry has arrived. He said it in a happy tone. Thus, the heroes regained their motivation and began their counterattack. Little by little, the villains were forced to retreat, using the non-us as shields. Izuku dodged the villains' attacks, his arms broken from using more power than he could handle. Tamura took advantage of Izuku's focus on dodging, which now gave him the upper hand, but then a powerful explosion hit him in the face, stunning him slightly. Izuku only saw someone approach him on a motorcycle. The freckled boy reached out and climbed on the back. Person. Wow, that was close. Turning to look at the freckled boy. Izuku. It's you. Recognizing the person. Person. Well, you saved me from dying in that fight, I had to return the favor. Tamura only saw the two of them walking away, which angered him. He placed his hands on the ground, creating a massive shockwave. Izuku, who saw this, quickly alerted the man who had saved him, and the man picked up his pace. The heroes who witnessed this quickly fled the scene, as did the villains. However, those who couldn't escape the villains' attack in time died in the slowest and most painful way possible. Seeing nothing, Tamura jumped to get a better view and quickly searched for any trace of the green-haired boy. He found him and swiftly shot towards him. Izuku was catching his breath when he saw Tamura approaching at incredible speed. Everything happened too fast, and the last thing the green-haired boy knew was that he moved forward to block an attack from the villain, which sent him crashing into a mountain. Before he could get back up, Tamura appeared in front of him, grabbed his face, and began running, dragging his face against the mountain and throwing him far away. Izuku was too hurt, he saw Tamura slowly approaching the green-haired boy. Tamura. You really thought you could beat me? He placed his foot on the freckled boy's chest, causing him to spit blood. Just look at you, so defenseless. He applied pressure, causing Izuku to groan in pain. You know, you look exactly like Almight before he died. I can't believe someone like him entrusted one for all to someone as useless as you. But don't worry, I'll make good use of that power. As he said that, a psychopathic smile appeared on his face, and red lightning began to crackle from his hand. Izuku could only try to break free, but it was useless since he had no strength left. Then, green lightning began to erupt from the green-haired boy's body, heading towards Tamura's body, which made the villain's smile widen. But before he could obtain one for all, the villain was sent flying by a powerful explosion. Chapter 13. Izuku slowly raised his gaze, finding himself face to face with a person wearing a rather familiar hero costume. Hey, you damn nerd, what do you think you're doing lying on the floor? This isn't over yet. Izuku. Kachin, in a happy tone. The ash-haired boy gave him a small smile and extended his hand, which the freckled boy took, thus getting up from the ground. Tatsuki. Alright nerd, what's the plan? Izuku. Tamura has pretty accelerated regeneration, but it has to have a limit. Tatsuki. Then if we just have to hurt him until his body collapses, leave it to me. While starting to create small explosions. Izuku. Kachin. Calling the ash-haired boy's attention, thanks for coming. While giving him a smile. Tatsuki. TSK, it's nothing. Besides, someone had to protect your ass. So the two launched themselves at Tamura, who was barely recovering from the explosion. The villain only saw two figures heading towards him, but before he could do anything, he was hit by a powerful explosion to the face that sent him flying. He was then surrounded by the freckled boy's black whips, which pulled him towards him and delivered a powerful kick to the stomach that made Tamura spit blood. The villain tried to counterattack, but each time he tried, he was either hit by an explosion or pulled back by the black whips. The villain's rage grew, and when Izuku trapped him with the black whip so Katsuki could unleash an explosion, the villain broke free, shattering the whips and grabbing the ash-haired boy's hand. He pulled him towards him and delivered a powerful kick, breaking several of Katsuki's ribs and sending him flying. Seeing his friend sent flying, Izuku was distracted for a few moments, which the villain took advantage of. In a swift movement, he appeared in front of the freckled boy and delivered a super punch. Charged with an attack that Izuku barely managed to block, the green-haired boy quickly recovered and turned to look at Tamura, who had remained motionless with his head down. Izuku thought Tamura had reached his limit, but before he could do anything, he saw the ground beneath him begin to tremble, and suddenly a stone pillar rose up, delivering a powerful blow to his stomach that sent him flying. Izuku turned to see the villain kneeling on the ground, clutching his head, but he was shocked to see black tentacles with red stripes sprout from the villain's back, heading towards him. Izuku didn't have enough strength to dodge the villain's attack, so he closed his eyes, but felt nothing. Opening them, he saw Katsuki being pierced by the tentacles. The two heroes fell to the ground, but Izuku crawled to his friend's body, trying to stop the bleeding. Katsuki. Deku, he said in a weak tone. Izuku. Kachin, you'll be okay, while applying a little more pressure. Katsuki. What are you saying, you damn nerd? While spitting out some blood. Katsuki turned his head, seeing Tamura still holding his head, then turned to look at the freckled boy. Katsuki. Izuku, calling the freckled boy's attention. The green-haired boy was surprised to see how the ash-haired boy, after so long, had called him by his name. Katsuki. I'm sorry I wasn't a good friend and always treated you badly. Izuku. Shaking his head, why do you sound like you're saying goodbye? Tears welled up in his eyes. Katsuki. I regret that it took me so long to realize my mistake. Izuku, can you make me a promise? Receiving a nod from the freckled boy, promise me that no matter what happens, you won't let the villains win again. Promise me. Izuku. I promise. Giving him a smile. Katsuki. Smiling, I appreciate that no matter how much I hurt you, you were always there. Izuku. We're friends, remember? He said in a broken tone. Katsuki. You're right, you're my best friend. As he said that, the ash blonde closed his eyes and let out his last breath. Izuku was left in shock by what had just happened. Izuku. Wait, Kachin, don't go. While slowly shaking him, hey, this isn't the time for jokes. While shaking him again. The freckled boy let out a loud, heart-wrenching scream as he hugged his friend's body, but then he heard a laugh and turned around to see Tamura getting up from the ground, but there was something different about him. Izuku. All for one, he said angrily. Afo. Oh, I haven't seen that look in a long time, as he approached the freckled boy. Izuku. How is it that you? Afo. I'm alive, you should have known that by now. All for one works like one for all, trapping the souls of its wielders once they die, only in my case it allows me to temporarily take over my successor. For years I've simply been waiting for the right moment to take control of Tamura's body, and now that I've achieved my goal, it's time to take one for all once and for all, as he launched himself at great speed towards the freckled boy. Izuku dodged it effortlessly. The villain turned to look at the freckled boy only to receive a powerful kick to the face, sending him flying. He was caught by the black whips and pulled toward the freckled boy, but before he could reach him, tentacles emerged from the villain's body, heading straight for the freckled boy. In a flash of speed, the freckled boy vanished, and the tentacles aimed at him were destroyed. The villain was surprised, wondering how the green-haired boy could still move in that state, but his thoughts were interrupted by a sharp blow to his stomach. He saw the green-haired boy with a hateful look in his eyes, but before he could react, he received a kick to the ribs that sent him crashing into the villain's base. Meanwhile, the green-haired boy's friends had finished defeating all the villains and were simply watching as their base was destroyed. They saw the villain fly away, with the green-haired boy following close behind. Chapter 14. Izuku was in the air, brutally striking the villain as they fell. The villain used several quirks to try and shake the freckled boy off, but it was no use. When they both hit the ground, a small crater formed. The villain took advantage of this to strike the green-haired boy and knock him off. When the villain got up, he saw that he was still bleeding and that his wounds weren't healing. He opened his eyes, but then he heard a voice and turned to look at the freckled boy. Izuku. I see you've reached your limit. He took a step towards the villain, but then he felt his leg break, causing him to fall to the ground. Afo. Look who's talking. He approached the freckled boy. You know, it's time for this to end. He began combining several quirks in his right arm. Izuku. You're right. It's time to end this. Before the villain could take another step, black whips erupted from the ground and grabbed his feet. Izuku leaped, burying the villain in the earth, but after a few seconds, he emerged again. In midair, Izuku began to spin, causing the villain to spin as well and crash into several mountains, sustaining significant damage. Izuku pulled him closer, but the villain was waiting to strike, resulting in a clash of fists. Izuku further increased his one for all, and as he drew closer, he felt his bones shatter. This caused the villain's fist to recoil, forcing him to increase his power until both were sent flying by the force of the clash. The villain was hurled to the ground while Izuku soared into the sky. Everything blurred and he saw his hand, which was completely destroyed. Then he noticed the villain was still standing, so he turned his head to see his friend supporting him. He remembered the words of the ash-haired boy. Izuku. This isn't over yet. As he said that, he began to fall at great speed. The villain got up from the ground and saw the green-haired boy coming straight at him at incredible speed. He began attacking with long-range quirks, but it was useless. So he prepared one last attack and waited until the freckled boy was close enough since he only had one chance. When Izuku was in his line of sight, he launched the attack, but Izuku dodged it, receiving a kick to the back of his head that sent him crashing to the ground, creating a large crater. The freckled boy's friends approached to see what had happened, and when they did, they were all surprised to see Izuku standing, while the villain lay unconscious on the ground, foaming at the mouth. Seeing this, they couldn't help but celebrate, as they had won. Deity and Uraraka approached the freckled boy, but when they did, they realized he was unconscious. So, carefully, they carried him away to tend to his injuries. Time skip. 2 weeks. 2 weeks had passed, during which Izuku had remained he was bedridden due to the exhaustion of his body, so we find ourselves in a bed in an unfamiliar place where the green-haired boy was sleeping. Little by little, he began to open his eyes and saw that his body was bandaged. He made some effort to get up, and as he did, a sharp headache appeared. After a few minutes, the freckled boy left the room and began to walk through some hallways until he came outside. Upon entering, he covered his eyes because of the bright light. He waited a few seconds for his eyes to adjust to the light, and when they did, he was surprised to see that he was at UA. As he walked, he saw people greeting him or whispering among themselves, but he didn't pay much attention. Along the way, he ran into his friends, who greeted him or asked if he was alright, to which he replied that he was. Izuku asked them if they knew where Deity and Uraraka were, to which they replied that they were with Mei in the support workshop. Izuku simply thanked them and he continued on his way, and when he was about to arrive, he heard a small explosion, so he quickened his pace. When he arrived and opened the door, black smoke began to come out. Izuku. Guys, are you here? Then he saw his friends approach to hug them, and he returned the hug. They were interrupted by a scream from Mei. Mei. My baby is finished, she said in a happy tone. Izuku approached the place, seeing the machine that brought him to the future looking brand new, and so he approached it. Izuku. This means I can go back to my time. Mei. That's right. I've already put the data into the machine, so you can leave whenever you're ready. Izuku. Wait, what happened to Tamura and the other villains? Deity. Don't worry, they're all locked up. And Tamura, well, he showed him a screen that lit up, revealing Tamura inside a container with a respirator on. Uraraka. He was unconscious after the fight, but don't worry. To keep him under control, we decided to keep him sedated and monitored at all times. Izuku. I understand. He looked seriously at the villain. Then they heard the door to the support workshop open, revealing all of the green-haired boy's friends. Seiya. You wouldn't think of leaving without saying goodbye to us first, would you? So one by one they began to say goodbye to the freckled boy until he reached Deity and Uraraka, who gave him some advice. Izuku. I'm ready, looking at the pink-haired girl. Mei. Okay, well, turning on the machine, oh, before I forget, hitting the freckled boy on the head, this will teach you not to touch anything unless I'm present. Izuku. I'll keep that in mind, while touching his head. So Izuku was about to cross the portal, but he was stopped by the brunette girl who grabbed his arm. Izuku was going to ask why she stopped him, but he only saw her kiss him, making him blush. Uraraka whispered something in his ear, but then he felt her push him, sending him into the portal. In another place, the portal opened and the freckled boy came out and fell to the ground. When he got up, he saw that everything was in order. He heard the door open, revealing Mei, who asked him what he was doing. Izuku told her he wasn't doing anything and quickly left. The freckled boy headed to the common room where he saw his friends, who all turned to look at him. Izuku smiled at them and approached, but then he saw Katsuki enter the room. When he did, Izuku hugged him, which resulted in him hitting his head. Katsuki. What the hell is wrong with you, you damn nerd? Somewhat confused. Izuku, it's nothing, it's just good to see you catching. Katsuki. TSK, whatever. Just don't do it again. As he leaves. Deity. Izuku, are you okay? Helping his friend. Izuku. Better than ever. I'm glad to be back. Deity. What do you mean by that? Confused. Izuku. It's nothing. Then he saw Uraraka talking to the girls, so he approached them. Izuku. Uraraka, can I talk to you? Nervous tone. Uraraka. Of course, what's up, Deku-kun? Izuku. Well, I was wondering if you'd like to go on a date with me. As she said that, the girl's face turned red while everyone in the place remained silent. Uraraka. And I and you on a date. Izuku. That's right. So tell me, would you like to go on a date with me? Uraraka. Yes. Excitedly, I mean, yes, I'd love to. So the two left the place, leaving everyone puzzled by what had just happened, but they decided not to dwell on it. As Izuku walked towards the exit, he saw some teachers taking the time machine out of Mei's workshop while she clung to her baby, shouting that it wasn't dangerous. Seeing this, a smile appeared on Izuku's face. Izuku. So, tell me, where do you want to go first? Looking at the girl. Uraraka. Well, how about an amusement park that just opened? They say it has amazing rides. Izuku. Sounds perfect to me. As he said that, Izuku took the girl's hand, making her blush. Then they both began to disappear into the distance. The end. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.